Hey guys, sorry for the buzz. It's only for the first 5 minutes, then I caught it and took care of it. Uh, Enjoy the show.
A perfect sphere. This story ends where it began. Guys, we're on part 3, talking about emo. That, of course, was Rites of Spring, one of the first emo bands ever. Let's get right the fuck back into it. Later in this episode, I'll be having an interview with comedian Alyssa Truzskowski on her experience, not only as an emo girl at that time, but booking a lot of the bands in the burgeoning scene that would blow up. I already used a lot of B's, but one of them happened to be brand new. So here's something I feel like a lot of American emos did not appreciate. Yet here, okay, you probably got bullied a little bit, and there was a little bit of like concern from parents and the mainstream, but the backlash we had here is nothing compared to the backlash that happened elsewhere. So real quick, if you're listening to this Friday morning, come see me at Dalek Paradise in West Philly. That is D-A-H-L-A-K Paradise. I'll be there with my friends Aaron Bell, who you might have heard on the Napoleon Dynamite episode, and my friend Malachi Ayers, who I don't think he's been on yet. He wants to do an anime episode because I said anime is stupid, and he wanted to punch me. And he is a fucking army vet, so I guess he could do that if he wants to. he has fought for the freedom to like stupid fucking weebo shit. Anyway, discrimination. So yeah, again, you might have got picked on and called, some homophobic slurs. In Mexico, there were anti-emo riots. Fucking riots, y'all. There's been a weird history for this kind of music in Mexico. A band that wouldn't be considered emo, but definitely lyrically fit it, would be the Smiths and Morrissey. I'm a human and I need to be loved. There's panic on the streets of London. I love how he is like the epitome of a beta male, but that's something I find funny. That's not anything I actually put credence into. Alpha, Beta, Omega, Epsilon, Kappa, Lambda, Lambda, Lambda. What the fuck am I doing? The Smith singer Morrissey is a major countercultural icon to alternative Mexican kids. Just look up Mexico Morrissey. I remember there was a great article on crack.com that really got into it. I read it described there as coming from a culture where macho behavior is still an unexamined norm, particularly in Mexico, this waif-like British slip of a man earnestly wailing pierced through all that. People, if you are a countercultural goth or emo kid, they fucking love Morrissey in Mexico. The emo presence is enough that My Chemical Romance ended their initial Black Parade album tour with a taped-for-DVD set in Mexico City where the kids were losing their shit. In one town, Querétaro, I'm not pronouncing that right, sorry, 160 miles north of Mexico City, and I pronounced that one a little too well, the other subcultures began to randomly attack emos on the streets. The rockabillys, the punks, the metalheads, the wastoids, the jocks, they all united to beat the shit out of emo kids, to the point that emos united and marched in protest with police chaperone. Quote, they're organizing to defend their right to be emo, wrote Daniel Hernandez of LA Weekly at the time. So a function of this, and unfortunately this is going to have wide-reaching implications here. A function of this is that in Mexico, emo is widely associated with homosexuality, where here it was only kinda. Like, even if you called an emo kid gay, you were mostly jealous of how much pussy the little queers were getting. You know what? Gotta be honest. Looking back, there was a big... again, graduated high school 05, around 03, 04. there was a big trend of dudes suddenly claiming bisexuality. Dudes who were just crushing puss be like, yeah, I kissed my friend once, and chicks were fucking into it. Like, we really need women to, like, unite and just say, I find it really hot when guys cut each other's dicks off. Because we do it. People would be into, like, oh, is this good enough for you? Larry, stand still. Larry, I'm trying to get Jessica to go to the fucking prom with me. Stand still. Let me cut your dick off, okay? Bite down on this. Be best friends forever. Yeah, I remember, actually, a weird moment of jealousy. I had a friend. Fuck. Sorry, guys. I only just noticed we were having a little bit of background noise. And I can't figure out that interference, but I did get it to go down. So sorry about that if it was bothering your ears. Yeah, again, I remember a kid I went to school with, Bob Clark, who would, like, was dating a super cute girl and would, like, make out with his friends, and the girls loved it. So something to be said. Another factor is that while many other Mexican subcultures came from the underclass, emos were strongly identified with middle-class kids. I would say that was basically the same over here. See, that was part of the reason I always identified as a metalhead. I didn't like a lot of the punk kids, especially when they got political, because then I was dealing with kids. The early stages of calling white privilege at each other was a lot of fucking white kids whose parents were like doctors and lawyers and shit, and they're chastising me about white privilege. Like, I was born on welfare. I live in I don't know. Nobody I know in my family has gone to college. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about, but okay. Yeah, middle class. Again, I couldn't get into it. I wanted to hang with the kids who were very much like, let you know how fucking white trash I came from. I remember my dad telling me, like, high school is the best years of your life, so you better enjoy it now. And even then at 16, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? I want independence. I want my own place. The best years of my life cannot include me living in my mother's house. Are you fucking kidding, Dad? My dad lived with his mother his entire life, with the exception of the 5 years he was married. So, Dad's not the best source. In 2008, the Russian Senate, the Duma, outright tried to vote to ban emo, going after a popular website, emokids.ru, and banning emo attire in schools and public buildings. Emo was seen as a, quote, negative ideology that encouraged suicide. One of the bill's authors referred to emo as a threat to national stability. And you know how stable fucking Russia is. Listen, I know we must have journalists killed. I know we must protect the apprentice man so he can become president. This emo thing can take it all down. We may not have golden hair peace in office. This turned into a caveman so easily. Anyway, in 2008, after the suicide of British teen Hannah Boyd, the Daily Mail published an article, Why No Child is Safe from the Sinister Cult of Emo. Fuck. Hannah had been described as happy until she turned 13, and the dreaded emo overcame her. She hung herself by a necktie from her bedpost. Again, I blame Avril Lavigne. Disturbingly, they had caught her cutting herself, which she explained was part of an emo initiation ceremony. I think I read this in a different episode. This one fucked me up. I didn't know about this. In Iraq, there were a series of emo murders. The Middle East in general hates emos. In 2009, 10 emo girls were arrested in Saudi Arabia for starting a scene in a coffee shop. In Iraq, an edict went out against emo fashion, with the New York Times reporting that in the weeks following, anti-emo flyers threatening death, quote, unless gay, again, they blamed it on gay, unless gay men cut their hair, stopped wearing the clothing of devil worshippers, and stopped listening to metal, emo, and rap music, began appearing in neighborhoods across Baghdad. An Interior Ministry official puts the numbers of murdered emos at 58, with all but one of them being men, beaten to death with cinder blocks and dumped in dumpsters. These were literally described as they would catch someone, lay them out, they would break it was called getting blocked, and they would, Facebook would have a much worse verse later, and literally take a cinder block and break every single limb and then crush the person's skulls in until death. These murders were believed to have been committed by paramilitary and police. Much like Mexico, emo was associated with homosexuality. So, not going to have a good transition there, but we are now going to discuss the best songs in emo. This was a very calculated, we put out, I've sent out mailers to everybody I went to high school with. No, guys, this is strictly my personal taste. And, I mean, that's what the fucking show is, you know? So, what are you going to do about that? Nothing. I'd like to see you try, pussy. I just get fucking belligerent while I'm trying to load a song on my phone. My Chemical Romance, the big ones, I'm Not Okay, Helena, Black Parade, Thank You for the Venom is fucking great. Famous Last Words, though, I have to put as their best. It's most indicative of their message. Where so many emo bands were about doom and gloom and depression and isolation, My Chemical Romance was about optimism. And the chorus of that song, it's really hard to beat down. I am not afraid to keep on living. I am not afraid to live this life alone. If that doesn't scream fucking stick-to-itiveness and optimism, I don't know what is. I will give you guys a song you probably haven't heard, though. On their series of EPs, Conventional Weapons, the last releases they made of original material, there is a gem lurking in there. The song Ambulance. Let's crank that for a second. Of course it went back. Nice. Just fucking nice. Next, not a bad one here. Everyone's going to know this one. Sugar We're Going Down by Fall Out Boy. Notice, I'm going to do this real quick. I'm going to show you how the intro of this song is very, very similar to two other songs. Alright, not yet. I fucked up already. Gonna wait a few more bars. And 1, and 2, and 3, and give it to him. Compare that with, say, that's right. Emo for Christ, y'all. That's the real shit. These are the real godfathers of emo. Alright. So, compare that, once again, with, by the group Simple Plan, Po Buddy's Nerfect. Alright, anyway, enough of that shit. Hey, Dad! Go back and listen to my pop punk episode on Simple Plan. They're garbage. Not the band garbage. The band garbage is kind of okay. Again, this is my preference and nobody else's. I don't know how this is not a huge fucking song. This screams high school dance to me. The Get Up Kids, Out of Reach.
Lost by an echo I'd never have known. I've got pictures to prove I was there.
Let me go to the chorus. The chorus is banger.
There's room to believe.
Out of sight, out of mind, out of reach. Start over.
There's no
Way to begin. Such a good song. Check out that album, Something to Write Home About. I believe me and Alyssa will talk about that in a little bit. This one, I saw a few things online saying this is one of the worst emo bands of all time. I will fucking fight them, okay? These guys exist on a spectrum of emo and screamo and post-hardcore. They never got that big. I only just discovered them, and they're pretty old. My favorite song ever. It's 1 minute and 35 seconds. Go listen to it now. I'm going to play you a clip. La Dispute, Such Small Hands.
I think I saw you in my sleep, darling. I think I saw you in my dreams. You were stitching up the seams on every broken promise that your body couldn't keep. I think I saw you in my sleep. I thought I heard the door open. Oh, no, thought I heard the door open, but I only heard it close.
You want to talk of shit on La Dispute? I'll fucking fight you. Guys, the only fucking emo song I can think of that you know right away just from the first fucking snare hit. Thursday, Understanding in a Car Crash. It's just hard to beat it. Such a great song. Again, this band did nothing for me. They still don't, but it would be really hard pressed not to say how huge they are.
Your lipstick is colored, don't bother, Angel. I know exactly what goes on.
Taking Back Sunday, cute without the E. It spells cut. Get it? You should do that to yourself.
And will you tell all your friends you've got your gun to my head?
Yeah. So yeah, weirdly missing from almost all this research I tried to do. I could not believe there were not more more people mentioning the Ataris. Guys, maybe they were considered more pop punk, but like the Atari's Broken Promise Ring is one of the best fucking emo songs ever. I had a lot of sad boy cry sessions to this one. Just looked it up. I had no fucking clue. This came out in 1999. So a later to the game Midwest emo band. They were from Indiana. Dude, me and my buddy Joe Garifo, he's been on a few episodes. We once had a discussion. What was the best 4-song streak on any great album? As in the track listing, like 1, 2, 3, 4 killer songs in a row. I'll give you a cheap one because it shouldn't count because it's the greatest hits album. Queen's Greatest Hits Volume 1. The first CD I ever bought at like 5 years old with my fucking, I don't know, birthday money. First 3 songs on that album. We Will Rock You, We Are the Champions, Another One Bites the Dust, Killer Queen. I can remember that fucking album lineup to this day. But in this discussion, we came up with 4 killer songs in a row on a track listing. The Ataris album, Blue Skies and Broken Hearts, track 3 through 6. Go listen to it right now. You will not regret it. San Dimas High School Football Rules, Your Boyfriend Sucks, I Won't Spend Another Night Alone. A great fucking emo song that has some humor to it. Not something the genre was known for. And The Broken Promise Ring. Fuck. Yeah, I've got to fast forward a little bit. And I know I talk about these guys a little later when we talk about worst emo lyrics, because there's some bad ones. I guess I'm not prepared to say goodbye so long, farewell, I won't be seeing you again.
Until next time that goes away.
Yeah, a really solid band. It still shocks me that their one and only big hit was a fucking cover of Boys of Summer. There. This very last fucking lyric. Ugh. I won't be seeing you again until the next time that he goes away. And here it is. I guess that I'm wrong for falling in love, but you're still the one I'm dreaming of. I guess that it's you I want to hold on to. You're holding on to someone else. Guys, it's emo without being pathetic, without being, it's just heartbroken. I could hear that lyric in a goddamn doo-wop song, and it would fit perfectly. Well, I guess that I'm wrong for falling in love, baby, but you're still the one that I am dreaming of. I guess that it's you. All right, I'm not going to go through that one more time. Yo, this came up on a few lists, and there's no way I could not include it, even though I don't consider it an emo song. Stray Light Run, Big Shot, Hands in the Sky. So, my favorite artists and some of my favorite songs of all time can best be described as menacing. Like a stalker lurking right behind your shoulder, slinking, impending doom that follows you all of your days. And that's what this sounds like to me. I think of songs like Tom Waits' Hell Broke Loose, Nick Cave's Up Jump the Devil. This song is straight up fucking menacing. A soft little guitar line over a drum machine brings in this swirl of emotions. It feels almost like Cthulhu, like an overwhelming sensation that you are at the mercy of, that cannot be escaped. And just as you're all settled in for this, like, I really just want to sit and listen to this whole fucking song. One of the most beautiful builds in any song I've ever heard. It just gets louder and louder. Harmonies come in. And just as it peaks out, the beat drops. And then the whole fucking song changes. A thumping 4 on the floor beat. The danger is right on her tail now, and the singer bellows out. How fucking great is that? Oh my god, it gives me chills. I have said before, I first heard that song on the show Sons of Anarchy, on one of the 3 seasons out of 9 that it was good. And yeah, if I ever had to fucking murder somebody, that is the song I would be listening to on the drive up. Alright, I got another weird one here. You gotta hear me out. You gotta hear me out. Most emo song ever. If you can even hear it. Different instrumentation than we're used to for emo. I assure you, this song is emo as fuck. Percy Sledge. Alright, hear me out. So, I love this fucking song. Go look it up on YouTube right now. The particular live version that comes up as the official version is astonishing. Unlike this one, like, this is really thin. It's mostly keyboard in the you know what? I'm gonna fucking bring up the YouTube version.
Hit records in a row, Mr. Percy Sledge, when a man loves a woman.
Oh, listen to those fucking horns, man. Alright, I'm not gonna fuck with you anymore. I'm joking, obviously, but calm down, Percy. Alright, A, I love this fucking song. B, if emo gets insulted as unmasculine and self-abasing and pathetically obsessed with romance and women, there is no, to use the parlance of our time, there is no song more wonderfully cuck than this. As the protagonist in the lyrics, when a man loves his woman, when his man loves a woman, this is cuck shit. When a man loves a woman, says if, oh yeah, she can do no wrong.
Turning back on his best friend if he put her down.
Turn his back on his best friend if he turns her down. Says here, he will sleep out in the rain at her request. Percy sounds like he's cutting himself for the entire track for this woman. And if that ain't emo, what is? Okay, so I'm going to get into the worst songs and worst lyrics in all of emo. And I'm not going to pull it up for this because I'm just trying to get through this fucking recording. But it's a lot of fun. Again, I have to go to the undisputed champions, Hawthorne Heights, Ohio is for lovers. Cut my wrists and black my eyes so I can fall asleep tonight because you kill me. Jump the shark, like, said the quiet part out loud. It was embarrassing. And again, as somebody who did cut themselves as a teenager, I look back on this shit and I'm really not fucking cool with it. I feel like I was being fed sadness porn at a time that I was the most susceptible to it. There were a lot of kids who would never fucking cut themselves who did it because of shit like this. Okay? Straight up, no way around it. It's a guilty pleasure song. That lyric always fucking makes me mad. Not emo, but gets lumped in a lot of the time. Evanescence, Bring Me to Life. Which... Wake me up inside. I can't wake up. Wake me up. There was an obsession at the time, and no, I have no examples, of the word inside. I think Stained used it a lot. It's like, I can feel it inside. Like, such a dumb, like, I feel it emotionally. What the fuck? Wake me up inside. What the fuck does that mean? It means you're not a good lyric writer, but it was a trend for a while. This was a fun bad lyric that came up. Bright Eyes, Connor Oberst, a perfect sonnet. Quote, "'Cause that's all that you'll get, so you'll have to accept. You are here and then you're gone. I believe that lovers should be tied together and thrown into the ocean in the worst of weather and left there to drown in their innocence." Yikes. Not the worst lyric ever, but man, is it pathetic. A band called Only Crime, the song Fallen Idols, burned out like a dying sun on alcohol and cheap romance, where the junkies and the suicides believe inside they had a chance. That makes me think. Really? Okay. Taking Back Sunday, big one. You're So Last Summer. The truth is, you could slit my throat, and with my one last gasping breath, I'd apologize for bleeding on your shirt. Doesn't rhyme. The fuck is that noise? My cats are being annoying upstairs. Pierce the Veil, Bulletproof Love. I have a few here. But I'm barely hanging on. No, I'm barely hanging on. By the time you're hearing this, I'll already be gone. Rhyming on with gone. Writing 101. And now there's nothing to do but scream at the drunken moon. Only one artist is talking about drunken moons that's allowed to, and that's Tom Waits. This isn't fair. No. Don't you try to blame this on me. My love for you was bulletproof, but you're the one who shot me. And goddammit, I can barely say your name. So I'll try to write it and fill the pen with blood from the sink. Everybody in that band needs to be punched by their dads. Just say, fuck it. Pierce the Veil. Go mow the fucking lawn. Head First for Halos by MCR. This was a bunch of people on my Facebook. You know, I'm going to pull it up because just to give a quick shout out to the people on my Facebook who helped me with this. All right, all the people who helped me out with suggestions here. Amy Lee. I did I did some of this fucking emo crying for her, you bitch. I love you, Amy. I'm glad you're doing good. My high school sweetheart, everyone. Patty Gallagher, wonderful comedian, just saw him last night. Rusty Wright, he's been on here. Drew Papsky, Seth Cohen, my boy, Slangin' Drinks. Will Gardner, the sad boy supreme. Lucas Purser, my fucking number one fan, I hope. He's number one because there's no other ones. Comedian George Bruderman, good boy. Tara Hernan, always loved Tara, the original emo girl. Andrew Hamilton, Danny Getz. Check out all his podcasts. I Feel Feelings. Check out Rank Bank with Dave Premiano. I did a great episode with them. And I don't remember. They were on the Treehouse of Horror episode. Dave Premiano was. I can't keep up. Jay Simpson, who I interviewed in the last episode. Jules Posner. I haven't gotten to know him much yet, but he seems like a cool dude. Eric Todd. I'm going to be on his show March 30th. Anna Yeager and the great R.E. Parrish, who has been on so many episodes. R.E. Parrish just had a fucking book come out. Her comic series, Brahmadeus, the story of Amadeus told through the Greek fraternity system. Get your fucking copy today. I cannot talk highly enough about R.E. Parrish and what a talent she is. And I love her every time I have her on the podcast. We got to do another book soon so she can come back. The final lyric I have here. Head First for Halos by MCR, My Chemical Romance. Let's go back to the middle of the day that starts it all. I can't begin to let you know just how I'm feeling. Well, the red ones make me fly, and the blue ones help me fall, and I think I'll blow my brains against the ceiling. And as the fragments of my skull begin to fall in your tongue like pixie dust, just think happy thoughts. It's so lame, but it's MCR, so I still kind of like it. Worst band names I could find. Flowers Taped to Pens. Me Without You. Cross My Heart. Pity Sex. That's a great band name. I'm Glad It's You. Death Cab for Cutie. Horrible name. And not quite an emo band. They have a few songs I like. They have a great song about, you ever want something cool? Speaking about Mexican emos, look up Mexico, Diana the Hunter. A.K.A. Diana the Bus Driver Killer. This lady had fucking enough and went Charles Bronson on some fucking, rape enablers. Diana the Hunter. Look it up. But, the band. The World is a Beautiful Place, and I Am No Longer Afraid to Die. Little long. You know, The Who. Black Sabbath. U2. The Beatles. All those bands put together do not have enough letters for that fucking name. So, we got to discuss now to wrap it up before the interview with Alyssa. Fuck. All right, now I got to cut this. I can't do this and then put Alyssa's interview at the end. Sorry. All right, joining me to talk about what it's like to be an emo girl in the mid-2000s, we have Alyssa Truzskowski, former comedian. How you doing, Alyssa?
Good. I would say not former comedian, but comedian on pause this year.
Oh, okay. Comedian interrupted, Alyssa Truzskowski.
Fair. That's fair.
Yeah, you could hear some of her old work on the Real Chills podcast. You know what's funny? Looking at our Facebook messengers, the last time you and I talked was when you were taking part in my one and only attempt at sketches, the Uncle Chicken Bun variety show.
I also noticed that today when we were messaging, I was like, holy shit, that was not that long ago. It was a while, but it wasn't that long ago. And I was that's the first time I met Jesse.
Yeah, it felt forever ago. Again, much like we were just talking with podcasts, that would have been, I was hoping to get a whole troop going, and instead it was just me running around like a chicken with my head cut off. It's like, I don't want to I will join somebody else's thing, and then I didn't do that. So
yeah, that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
As a sketch comedy person, I think that's every sketch comedy situation. So you just lived the whole dream in a shorter time.
Perfect. Okay. I can cross that off my bucket list then, as having already done it. Before we get too into it, anything you have to promote, anything you want us to know, anywhere we could find you on the internet?
You can follow me on Instagram at Alyssa Truz, and then I have a bunch of lizards that I share on Instagram also. So if you find me at Alyssa Truz, you can find my other Instagram, and I have some projects that are coming up. But yeah, so that's really it for right now.
Hey, I'm a rabbit guy, so I'm a big supporter of slightly exotic pets.
Yeah, I've met your one bun several years ago, but I know you have other buns now.
We got him a lady bun who went well. She died suddenly. Died on Good Friday. So my rabbit died 2 days before Easter. Go figure.
And didn't get resurrected.
Didn't get resurrected. I mean, we ended up burying her in a very shallow grave in my mother's yard because it was dark and it was cold and we didn't have a shovel. And I just told my mother, if the dogs dig this rabbit up, just don't tell me. I never need to know.
Yeah. Rabbits are hard because they will suddenly pass. That is the thing that they're known for.
Yep. Perfect health and then just dead 3 hours later. But we got him a new lady bun, Rory. They get along quite well. And
good.
Yeah, Rory ate my fucking book that I'm reading. She ate like the entire back cover last night because I was recording a different podcast. So I can only assume they're munching on a Stephen King right now if I'm downstairs. So we are here to talk about emo. I already talked to Jay Simpson, who gave me his point of view. So give me your emo background. How old are you? How do you discover it? How do you get involved in the scene? What did it mean to you?
Okay, so I am in this weird spot where I'm 37. And so my time for being into emo was like around the 2000s to like 2003, 2004, maybe. So it's this like window where I think I looked it up online. I think it's technically like second wave, where it was before like I don't even know that one band. I'm embarrassed to even say. What's the one band that everyone talks about?
Rites of Spring.
The MC. No. The later one. The murder, not Panic at the Disco. Like that whole
Romance.
Like My Chemical Romance. I never listened to My Chemical Romance until a couple years ago, and I was like, oh, okay, this is fine. But so that was like after my time. But I was like, the band Brand New, when they like first started touring and like before they released their first album, that was the type of bands like we saw near us. Like I live in Delaware and I grew up in this area where the record Jade Tree, like that whole label was like from this area. And so we had like Boy Sets Fire. We had bands like the Get Up Kids and Dashboard Confessional started and got really big like during the time I was there. So a lot of bands that have become like known from that time, we saw them like rise to popularity for people in like my friend group. That's kind of where I entered.
See, the way I've seen it broken down is there are 3 key stages, although I think for our discussion, it's going to be 3.5. The first one being the absolute origins, being like the DC emotional hardcore Rites of Spring. That's in like the mid 80s. Then like mid 90s, you get a bunch of Midwest bands. This is where you're going to get like Jimmy World and the Get Up Kids. Then the third is really the blow up of like the mainstream shit. And that's where you're going to get Panic at the Disco and My Chemical Romance and The Used, stuff that a lot of snobs have argued with me setting up this episode. Like, well, that's not real emo. Like, okay, well, if I asked 20 people on the street, they'd all say that's emo. So, you know, if I want to talk about emo culture, maybe that's who I'm going to talk to. But, you seem to be right in like kind of the crux where you were coming up. It feels like you were really involved just before the big mainstream pop. Yes,
definitely, for sure. And then of course, like I grew into that part, like after high school, in college, like I worked at the college radio station where I became the snob who was too cool for like that era of My Chemical Romance. They use like, I fit right into being the emo snob because of just the time that I was in high school and things were popular. So
So what was your particular favorite bands as you were getting into it? And
oh my gosh. Okay. So my favorite band was Brand New because of the access point. I had shared this with you before, but my friends and I, we pooled our babysitting money and we would rent out the American Legion in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania, and book bands to come through. So we booked Brand New. That was like a big deal. We brought them. I don't remember. I think they had come once before to our area, and we rebooked them as like a headliner. So that band was super like influential for me. Problematic now with all the stuff that's come out for sure, but like definitely like huge influence. I really love Dashboard Confessional. I got to see Chris Carrabba perform before he also started headlining. The Get Up Kids is like my longest favorite band from that era. Like Still Today, Put on the Get Up
Mhm.
Kids, Put on Saves the Day. Those
yeah.
are like classics for me. The only one that I have, it's like a weird mix. I don't know how you categorize the Saddle Creek bands like Bright Eyes or Rilo Kiley, because
I
that
would
indie
still.
offshoot.
Well, you know,
Yeah.
I would say that was very much the kind of crossover. Again, those early ones, it was very much hardcore. I felt like that Midwest chunk, they brought a lot of indie to it. And I would actually put Saves the Day as probably like the tipping point where it was the perfect combination of like the kind of high-pitched, whiny, slightly misogynistic lyrics and vocals, but still had it had a lot of that indie behind it, but like really strong songwriting and like hard distortion on the guitars. It all comes down to the guitars. The Midwest stuff, like the Get Up Kids, it's very like kind of jangly, and then as it moves over, you get that kind of like that chunk.
Yes. And that was what became definitely more popularized in like what we I think know largely as emo music, right? Like what really became the culture of emo music as like it progressed into the third wave.
So what was it specific? Well, tell me, what is the scene like? How big is the scene? Are the fashion tropes? I know the straight iron flat bangs did not just show up one day. Were we seeing kind of the proto of that? Were we seeing like, is there a Patient Zero in the crowd?
Do you remember the TLC TV show John and Kate Plus 8 with the woman who had 8 Asian babies, half Asian babies? She and her husband.
That's a very specific way of putting. I was aware of John and Kate Plus 8, and I was aware of the Asian babies.
So she had this haircut that was like long bangs in the front and spikes in the back that I think people now would be like, oh, that's a very like suburban mom Karen haircut.
The Karen cut.
Yes. But in the year 2000, it was one of the coolest emo haircuts that you could have with like true spikes in the back and like long bangs in the front with like cute barrettes. That was a very like popular haircut for girls. I'm trying to remember for guys, like what it was a mix of things, because I feel like at that point, emo music guys were either baseball shirt wearers or like tight t-shirt wearers, or they were cardigan wearers. Like that's where, again, with that split towards like more like punk and hard rock, like emo music versus like more indie, like that's where we started to see a schism.
I'd actually split it between dorky and nerdy. Like cardigans is dorks. Like I'm good at school. I don't really drink. And then once we get into nerdy, it's like I like Legend of Zelda and anime. and that's where you get like the pink eyeshadow and you know what the hair always reminded me of? It honestly reminded me a lot of like Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue, who obviously a decade before did a bunch of hair shit, enough that it was called hair metal, but a more tamed version of that. Definitely more punky than poppy or metally.
I don't know if you lived through like Hot Topic in those years.
Yes,
because I feel like you and I are close in age, but maybe we're not.
I'm 35, but keep in mind.
Okay, I'm 37.
Yeah, the other aspect here is I was never full bore into emo. I was always a metal kid, but like I loved My Chemical Romance. I just liked good songwriters in general.
Yeah.
Out of Reach by the Get Up Kids is one of my favorite songs of all time. I am shocked that was not like a massive hit song. It is a perfectly written pop song.
Yeah.
But it, like, I got made fun of by my friends for watching it. And not only that, but I have said that as a lifelong chunky boy, the emo aesthetics did not do me any favors. That's why I had to be a metalhead kid. Black t-shirts, jeans, and boots. I can do that. That's slimming.
Yeah. I wore the smallest t-shirts. I don't know how I fit into them. I've had tits since I was the 13-year-old. I have no idea how I fit my body into that. But I was also on the cusp. Like I remember I went to college. And so in college, I really changed my subculture affiliation to like DIY punk. So very different, but similar, right? Like, but I was definitely at the beginning of the white belts. So fashion wise, like the white belt was like the start. Because I don't know where you fit it in, but do you remember like the kind of like dance disco-y, like the Faint, like being popular, or like electronic music, like Ladytron having this weird side influence where like you could like emo music, but you also like this dancey shit?
That I started seeing it creep in, although weirdly enough, I saw it made a bigger effect in the next generation that came after this, that would be more like the scene kids, which I had a fun time trying to discuss with my wife and tell her what a scene kid was. But because unlike a lot of subcultures, a scene kid was, particularly the fashion and subculture at the time, wasn't really relegated to one kind of music. A scene kid could be as much into fucking Skrillex as they were into whatever else. But I feel like Attack was one of the first bands I heard where they were like incorporating these like metalcore things, and then there'd just be like an EDM dance portion of the fucking song.
Yeah.
And it made a lot of people angry at the time. Like, why would you who told you to do that? That was a bad idea, but people loved it.
Yeah. I remember too, like the band, I don't know if you remember the Rapture. They had that big hit House of Jealous Lovers, or like, gosh, did you ever listen to Minus the Bear, where it was like also there's this offshoot that started happening with like a revival of prog rock, or not prog rock, like math rock.
There was a little
there's like
what was what's the name of the band that fucking, there's a few bands where it came out there, and I like that stuff, even though I didn't get into it entirely. And this is where we all start, like, none of these things are happening in a vacuum, because a lot of these emo kids, not emo at all, a lot of them were into Dillinger Escape Plan, and they were like total fucking math rock, like all over the place. And it did kind of like filter its way in here and there.
God, I'm gonna look up for that one band really quick. So I'm sorry if you have to edit this, but
that's fine.
What is it?
I'm going to look
at the drive-in. That's the band that I felt like unified so many like musical subcultures, where it was like I had a metalhead boyfriend when I was really into emo music, and like he loved At the Drive-In, I loved At the Drive-In. Like I felt like that was definitely like they were like the Rage Against the Machine of like that era of time.
Yeah, I think really the only thing that disqualifies them from being emo is the fact that their lyrics were so, I love their lyrics, don't get me wrong, a lot of them were nonsensical. Like, there was a lot of emotion behind it, but you know, like I'm trying to think, I must have read 1,000 Faces, I must have robbed them of their guns, stick and run, do it together. Yeah, One Arm Scissor, like I by the way, I listened to that whole album on a walk just last night. I loved
nice. It's a great album.
But if you listen to the guitars in particular and put it right next to say like Thursday's Full Collapse, it's very similar. It's just a matter of how heavy they wanted to be. And honestly, I do think that was the big change, as the bands who got the most popular were the ones who leaned away from the heavy stuff and got more to like the pop aspect. And that would be your Fall Out Boys, your Paramours, your My Chemical Romance.
Yeah. I will also say the part of like the tri-state Atlantic area, the mid-Atlantic, all the bands that came, like Taking Back Sunday, Thursday, Brand New, Saves the Day, the ones that came from like that area, a number of them, you had pointed to this, like there was just something, I don't know, maybe it's because I was a teenage girl at the time, but there was something about like the kind of like romantic misogyny that was just like so appealing on an emotional level as a teenager, because you're just like, oh, like I guess young men have feelings too. Like they're just very complicated or whatever.
They are very complicated. They have all these feelings for me, and one of those feelings is they might have to kill me because of this.
100%. Yes, for sure.
I
don't know. We haven't seen each other. I don't know if you've heard the one joke that I have. I'll like shorten it, but basically like I talk about how I don't want to be online because of like getting like abused in the comment section. And I'm like, if I want a New Jersey 7 to tell me that I'm beautiful, but he also wants to like kill me while I sleep, I will just listen to Saves the Day. Like that
Yeah.
is that is there for me. Like
I had my own joke. It was too specific, so it never stayed in the act. But I did say, like, I really want to see an all-girl emo band, and their name will have to be Dude, We Went Out on One Date.
I love that. The emo response.
There is a kind of, I was talking about this with Jay, and again, this is I've been very open on all these podcasts about who I am. I'm somebody who's had to evolve a lot, even since doing comedy. I started out as a little bit of an edgelord. I've had to work my way through. Mentioned that in the mid 2000s, I flirted dangerously close with the alt-right because, hey, suburban white boy, that's what you do. But
Sure.
but yeah, really diving into the feelings of that time. And part of the reason emo appealed so much is there is just this hard, it really is an anger with women, because like you're kind of it, you only realize as you get older, like everybody's dealing with their own shit. But at that time, it felt like I am hormonally compelled to be fucking crazy about you. And I kind of resent that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. You tell me what a girl got out of it from her point of view. Is it a little bit like the fascination with like vampires of like, they love me and they have all this power, but they can kill me at any moment? I
don't know. Like, I don't know exactly. I don't understand the trope analyses of today. So I don't know if I was like that girl or like the I'm not like other girls.
Mhm.
But like there, for me, it was kind of like you could, like, I could see myself in the music, not as the girl on the receiving end. I'm also queer. So maybe that's like a part of it too, where like I can kind of like feel this feeling from like the singer's point of view. And like get into it. And then like as an art form, as a person who tried to go to college to do a record label when Napster like started, you know, like
God, yeah.
That was like those were the things where I was like, I just loved the emotionality in the music, but also like the fact that it was just so catchy and great. So I think that was part of it. I mean, there were definitely like cute faces in there, and there were some really good emo bands that had women singers in it that were good. Like I really liked, they weren't like as well known or in the same vein necessarily, but I really liked Rainer Maria. The Anniversary had a female singer. And so there were bands that were adjacent that kind of like flushed out the world. But what I came to realize later is like, I had depression, like, and for whatever, like, listen, like living in the world of emo music, like fed that depression in a way that was like just what it was. Like, I don't know if I was drawn to it because I was depressed or if because I was listening to it, it made me more depressed. But like, that was the thing. It like kind of ticked that box for me of like being a space for me to have like be in touch with emotions, I guess.
So yeah,
there were some cute faces though, I'll be honest.
Oh yeah, there were cute people. Again, as a husky boy, emo was not, I could be the guitarist they keep in the background of all the group shots. But but looking around at the other music of the time, if you consider like heavy metal at this point is I honestly didn't like it. I think of like Slipknot and metalcore bands where like it almost became like bully metal, where like every song was like, you were mean to me, but now I'm a grown up. And it was just really kind of lame. Like that shit you realize when you grow up, that like what you consider like a tough guy at that age, you look back and like, oh, I was a porcupine. I just had my pointies out so no one could get to my soft little belly that was there.
Yeah.
And hip hop was really not that welcoming to any kind of weakness, but emo was this big, literal, just open, vulnerable wound to go in and feel feelings. And I feel like some of the bands handled that okay, but some of the later bands pushed it. Like Hawthorne Heights for me was a band that pushed it way too far, in that their first single literally it just jumped the shark. Literally in the chorus, it's cut my wrists and black my eyes, just like all the stereotypes.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And I would think in retrospect, like, hey, there's a bunch of vulnerable 14-year-olds listen to us, maybe not with the cut my wrists thing.
Yeah, interesting. I haven't really thought about that. I don't know. Also, like, because from where I lived, you could go see an emo show. You could have a hardcore band and an emo band, like a more rock like hardcore band like Persuasion on the same bill. So you could see like a pretty diverse range because it was like a local show and local bands would play. And so I think there was also this weird element of like, there were things that were heavier. And because it was like a mixture, there was a lot of influences at the time.
Okay.
As it funnels back to emo. For metal music, what were like, I'm trying to remember what my ex-boyfriend listened to at the time. Like, I remember he liked like Opeth. That was like a band that was putting out albums at the time. And I'm trying to even think like what was like popular in like the predominant metal scene.
See, I think of that era. I think of Slipknot being the biggest, but other than that, you have a lot of like Kill Switch Engage, Shadows Fall, Atreyu, As I Lay Dying, a lot of a weird amount of like Christian metal bands coming from Ohio. I don't know what the fuck happened there. But
POD.
Oh God, yeah. They're a little bit before. Yeah, know something funny I found out. This isn't it's out there, it's not widely known. Katy Perry was the backup singer for POD for a lot of the 2000s before she blew up. You can see a video of her doing like David Letterman or Conan, and it's just like
interesting.
Yeah. But
I was gonna tell you, I think you had made another post. I had stickers for a long time in my dashboard because I also went through a phase of being like in a Christian like youth group in high school, and POD album came out on 9/11, and there was like just stickers, just the POD, and there was like 9/11. Like it was just this the day, and I just had this for a long time for no reason.
Oh wow!
So little known fact. Yeah.
You ever want to cringe? POD has a song on their first album that's like just about it's just anti-abortion, and it's pretty fucking. I'm pretty sure it's like, yo, think about the baby. What? Think about the. It's very, very bad.
Yeah, yikers.
To quote Hank Hill, "You're not making metal better. You're making Christianity worse." I think I said that backwards. Doesn't matter. So yeah, I'm trying. What led to you? What led to you like falling out? Like you just is it? I think part of it is once you go to college, you're not in kind of. Especially you seem to be a bit of a scene maker yourself. I mean, being proactive, getting out there, contacting these bands. Oh, actually, did you have any interesting moments with these heroes of yours, being the one setting up these shows?
You know, one of the things that was great was like I loved that when I did go to college and I worked at the TV station in college and I worked at the radio station, I was able to interview Brand New on one of their like major tours, and we were able to get like access to like to have those conversations or to like just film them and at spaces. So I think that was the biggest thing, because like actually getting to know like, oh, they're just like regular people. Like that was really helpful because it just kept like, at least for me, it demystified a lot of that, where I think I might have been prone to being like a lot of more idol worship, but it's just like you got to go early with your press passes, you're like watching them warm up. It's just like regular, like they make a magical experience, like people have a magical experience at concerts, but they're just like 24-year-old like men from Long Island, you know what I mean? Like
I mean, it's not to put kind of a damper on it, but you did kind of hint about some of these bands having done some problematic things, as we would find out later. I do unfortunately think that there's that can happen to anybody, but I do think there's two very big groups that tends to go along with. One of them being like super alpha dudes who just don't want to be told no, who take what they want. And unfortunately, a lot of it, a lot of these bands are just like very humble, awkward, aw shucks kind of guys themselves. And I could see them being obviously not taking away any responsibility they have, But I could see these guys really kind of fumbling all the attention they're getting. And when you're a shy fucking weird guy and suddenly you're getting this kind of attention and you're not in a position to know how to behave responsibly with it. I think that's where a lot of this shit came from, because a lot of this involved guys like doing shit with their fans who might not have been particularly of age at the time, especially considering the brand new connection of like MySpace really kind of allowing for that channel of communication in a way it never had before.
I will say too, like, because I was really fortunate to like become aware of feminism and like put that on as an identity, like early when I was like around 12 and 13. Because I also had the benefit of like learning about Riot Girl music. Like, so that really was influential to that part of my life and to still now. But
I think just to interrupt real quick, we're having a girl and her middle name is going to be Rebel because she first kicked when we were listening to Rebel Girl.
Hell yeah. I love that. That's so great.
Love that.
That's awesome.
Feminism, I feel like there was a gap in feminism between the Riot Girl and then like not until like the later 2000s. And when it came from like college. So like, yeah, there's kind of a dearth of feminism in like independent music at this era.
Yeah. And I think one of the things too is that like, we didn't have a general public discourse where there were just other people in the conversation. And then like social media was just different then. So, you know, not to say that things don't happen now, but like we didn't, I feel like as a culture, or at least like in the groups that I was running in music wise, like it was like, oh, like this guy is dating this girl who's like underage, or like there's a really wide like age gap and the power dynamic is weird because he's like in this cool band or whatever. And you know, I dated a guy who was like a scene dude, a big time dude, like when I was in college, and he was like significantly older than me. And that, I don't know, there just wasn't like other people around to be, everyone was like, oh, it's so cool. But now I think people would like question that because we have models to question that, or like more language to just like talk about and being like, man, this seems like weird. Like,
yeah, I've heard that from a few people who've who have been in those situations and pretty much said like, until you really have the kind of vocabulary to describe what is happening to you, it's kind of hard to really get a grasp on it. And especially at an age where like confusion and hunger are your top two emotions. Confusion, hunger, and tired.
I would say horniness. Like that was definitely one of my top emotions.
Horniness in that era. Up there too. Yes. I
mean, a kind of hunger, if you say, but I think that, yeah, and even too, like scene culture is like weird because, you know, you have like, you form this unofficial community around a shared interest, shared music, and geography is the other thing. Like now I don't know how it is exactly, but like some of it too is just like, sometimes you're in a place and like you are dating the person who is like probably most compatible with you because you like the same things, you're in a similar community, and there's not that many people that you just like mesh with or whatever, right? Like, so there is some of that too, where I have sympathy for people who are in communities where they're like, yeah, I dated this person, there's this weird like dynamic, but also like there's 15 people like here.
Yeah, you can I think a lot of people can really be can really miss the focus of that, as again us growing up in like the tri-state area, next to one, you know, right in the shadow of the biggest media market in the country. You forget that like, yeah, if you're in Ohio or Indiana or even parts of Florida, like if you're a horny teen, you got to date somebody. And you're going to find, you know, sometimes it's going to be slim pickings and you don't know any better.
Yeah. I mean, you had asked like how I had fallen out of it. I mean, part of it is I did go to college and I got to work at the radio station. So I did just get to know people who with like different tastes in music and different experiences. So that was like really helpful for me to like expand my taste. Although at that time there was definitely like indie college radio was its own like bubble of music. But then for a long time I was really into like the punk scene in Pittsburgh, where I had lived for a long time. And, that had its ups and downs. And in a lot of ways, just like replaced what I had experienced in my hometown with like this new kind of scene that had many of the same like conventions, cultural conventions, but just like tied to different things that were meaningful. So I feel like, I don't know if you've had this experience. Like I also played roller derby. We've been in the comedy community. I've come to realize like many communities are basically the same.
Yeah, there's always, I can tell you one thing. Every subculture I have gotten into, I have been really bad at making the right friends that would, they'll be successful and then I'll be successful and then none of us do well. That's how that feels. But no, yeah, everything has its own hierarchy. I feel like more than anything else, it is a lot of these things are sorted out by just like, who's more fun to be around?
Yeah.
And
or at least hopefully now that's the way. Like when you're younger, some of it is just like who's the coolest. Like being cool does not equate itself to being fun.
Right, exactly. And that's a very big difference at the time. It's enough to be with the guy who is, you don't have a good time with, but like everybody else like, oh, he's like the top dude and she's with him.
Yeah.
It's that kind of stuff.
It's real. Or I can't even tell you how many shitty bands I saw that was like, these bands are like really cool or whatever. And like, they were not fun shows. They were fine. But like how much you do like in that scene, at least where you're like, you put up with a lot, but like at the end, the things that are lasting are like the bands that are fun or who have like really good songwriting or things that like
not only
that matter.
You tend to, do you still have any old friends from back in that time?
I do. Yeah, I do. One of the people that I like, I mean, I still talk to some of the people I was close with. Oh, here's a funny story. I'm married, my husband, he was in a band, not like an emo band specifically, but like an emo adjacent band. We were best friends for a long time. And then we like got together later. So I'm friends with my husband.
No.
So I do. We have a couple people that we know from like back then. But really like, yeah, really, I feel like most of the people, we just had different values later,
Yeah, when you don't really have it does seem insane in afterthought that like, oh, all my friends I made for 15 years were based upon liking the same bands. That was really it. Just because, well, for one thing, the fact that you're all in the same school together, you have a shit ton in common just there because you have been forced into the same community.
So. Yeah. And I moved around a bunch too. So like the people who, like my friends from that time period are literally like my friends from that time period. And then I left for school. So we didn't have any other thing tying us, other than things we discovered that we shared a common interest in. There wasn't anything else tying us to like together other than the music.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. Okay. Well, Alyssa, thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah.
I guess let's wrap it up with this. Gun to your head. If you have to, I'll allow for a few. Your favorite emo album ever?
I don't remember the title of it. It has the robots on it. It's that Get Up Kids album with the robots on it.
I know that album, and I don't know the name. Wait, hold on. We're going to look it up real quick because
You said gun to my head favorite emo albums?
Yes.
That Get Up Kids album and Through Being Cool, and that is the end of my list. Brand New, Your Favorite Weapon, like now for me is I'm conflicted because I feel some kind of way about all the controversy. Your Favorite Weapon, though, it's a classic choice for me. So if I had to pick a third,
Something to Write Home About.
Yes, that's Something to Write Home About. Number 1, number 2, Saves the Day, Through Being Cool. Number 3, reluctantly, is Your Favorite Weapon by Brand New, their first big album.
All right. Can't fuck with that. Alyssa, thank you so much for appearing.
Thank you.
Gonna end this the way I always do. I'm gonna stop recording, but you and I could keep chatting for a minute.
Yes.
Okay. So many people have told me that they were very upset when the When We Were Young festival was announced, the lineup, because it was a big emo fest. But just the name of it, When We Were Young. Man, young people do not realize. I should have paid attention to my mom, my grandmother. She was in her late 70s, and I just remember her saying one day, like, I still feel like I'm 22 inside. Me, Mom, Lorraine, don't we all? That is the worst, that we always feel young. I always felt older, but I think that older was like, I always felt like 27, 28. And now, I feel older than the 35 I am now, but still. I don't feel much different than the young man who was into all this. When We Were Young made people really confront. I saw somebody make a video talking about people being upset about that, and they showed an old infomercial. If you remember, if you're old enough to remember an infomercial, it was one of those compilation discs, and this one was like groovy tunes from back in the day, and the commercial was these cringy dudes in really shitty hippie makeup hanging out outside of a van. Like, dude, don't you remember the songs from the Summer of Love? Well, now they've all been collected on one great compact disc. And the guy in the video made the point, like, yeah, this was made in This commercial came out in 1990, which is like 20 years. It's been 20 years since these bands were huge. Like, this is the new lame thing. This is the new fucking Blink-182 are on a compilation called Now That's What I Call Dad Rock. And a lot of emo kids are having the shock of realizing, like, oh no, we're fucking baby boomers now. They're pitching this shit to us because we're like the responsible generation now. Like, have families and have kids, and we will send the fucking... That horrible fucking feedback started again. I'm sorry. We are the generation that, you know, we will send the kids to their grandparents for the fucking weekend so that, you know, we can go to fucking Las Vegas and do Molly and fuck while the used plays, you know? Like, that's where we are now. The high school emos grew into college hipsters, which, hilarious, yet reasonable, that the kids who took everything too serious would come to see everything through cynicism and irony. Like all generations, they got over their bullshit, they got office jobs, and started having kids. I'm one of them. The self-loathing and worthlessness that once plagued my personal life disappeared once I got married. And hopefully it'll stay that way. I'll never have to lower myself into that, because my emo years were not good ones. Some had good ones. Jay Simpson from the last episode mentioned that his emo years were a carnival of pussy, to which I compared mine was a poorly attended swap meet. A poorly attended poetry slam of pussy. They were not good times. Emo now continues into emo rap, which is very big right now. Still a little bit underground. If you have your ear to the underground, maybe you can catch one of the big artists while they're still alive before they overdose on drugs. Yeah, Juice WRLD and Lil Peep were two guys doing emo rap who were going to be huge. Yeah, that's a Lil Peep. This song is like 5 years old now, so everything sounds like this. And yeah, they're just dead. Don't fuck around with pills. They'll fucking kill you. They killed my dad. If they killed fat barroom brawler Joseph Dram, you do not have a fucking chance, skinny boys. Also, one of the biggest songs this year has a ton of emo influence behind it. There are still classical emo bands like two guitarists, a bassist, and a whiny singer. These guys are in their late 20s or 30s, and they're making music for people that age. It doesn't work. Emo has, much like Wu-Tang, emo was always for the children, for the youth. That shit is not written for the youth, but this is the emo influence right now being written for young kids. It's Will Smith's fucking daughter, and she is putting out more relevant emo music right now than whatever fucking album The Used just came out with, or Taking Back Sunday. It's gone, guys. It's gone. Your youth is gone. You're lucky you got here, okay? It sucks getting older, but consider what the other option is, you know? I talked about my friends, Marielle and Jessica, who passed away. Marielle made it to this age, but, Jessica dying at 17. She died of unfortunate causes beyond her control, but a lot of people did not make it. And, those people would be if they could somehow, much like the girl in Helena sits up out of her casket and takes a moment to appreciate everything, if they had died at a young age in their emo era and they got to sit up and suddenly be 35 for a moment, they would absolutely relish the opportunity and the brief sensation of having grown older. They would trade it all, absolutely, to say, that's when I was young. Because his wrists and blacks his eyes. Because my wrists and black my eyes. So I can't fall asleep tonight.
If she is bad, he can see